Yeah, Chicago Fire Department officials warned that this is a real emergency. They are seeing more and more lithium battery fires caused by technology that isn't actually certified. Take a look. These are some images that Chicago Fire Department officials shared with us today. These are from recent lithium battery fires in the city. Firefighters have seen computers, personal computers, e-bikes ignite. They're seeing these types of fires on the rise. So they're putting out a PSA to help the public learn about the dangers of lithium batteries. And of course, lithium batteries are all around us, right? They're in our cell phones, even in our EV cars. And they're also telling us how to protect ourselves. One big tip is to make sure that rechargeable lithium batteries are certified by a nationally recognized laboratory like the Underwriters Laboratory. That's that UL logo. The Chicago Fire Department commanding fire marshal says CFD has even purchased new firefighting tools to fight EV fires and have had to retrain firefighters in some cases.
It's not a typical fire. You have to keep it in check, so we've even purchased items such as a turtle, which puts out a high volume of water just to keep it in check. We've had to think of how we get those vehicles out of the parking garages that they're in, next to the sources that they're being powered with. So we've had to change tactics over the last couple of years.
So lithium batteries are all throughout our house. We probably have some old cell phones laying around. If you want to recycle them properly, we have a link on the screen right now. Just go to call2recycle.org. That's that website you see. Call the number 2recycle.org. There you can find your nearest location to be able to recycle properly these lithium batteries.
Fox 32 is your home of the Bears. And 2 weeks into the season, fans are getting a good look at what Caleb Williams can do and what he's struggling with.
Cassie Carlson sat down with the QB at Hallis Hall.
Caleb Williams had his welcome to the NFL moment when he was sacked 7 times against the Texans Sunday night. And while he said he was frustrated following that loss, he said he did see improvements in himself from week 1 to week 2, maintaining that perspective as he goes throughout his rookie season. This week, I got a chance to catch up with the Bears quarterback one-on-one.
Gotta admit, because we get you kind of at an interesting time coming off your first loss. Are you a trust the process kind of guy, or do you go back and reevaluate how you approached game week leading into Sunday Night Football and change some things?
I think it's a good balance of both. Obviously, when you lose, there's something that I would say you were missing, whether it's detail, whether it was a certain play or plays, and then also a belief in just understanding that sometimes you're not always going to be victorious. So handling that the way we should. It's always about the response when you have these moments. Those moments, like we just had, when we respond well, good things come from it.
You can catch my full one-on-one interview with Caleb Williams on Bears Game Day Live Sunday morning at 9:30 ahead of the Colts game. We discuss the Bears' offensive identity. I ask if he's a patient person, and he tells us the best piece of advice he's received from quarterbacks who have been in his position before.
Okay, so let's just get right to it. How's Diddy reacting to everything that's going on right now? What have you guys heard?
Well, his attorney says he's in good spirits, but let's be honest here. Diddy's life is on the line. I mean, you were talking about incredibly serious federal charges, one of them being sex trafficking that could quite literally carry a life sentence in prison. So, again, while his attorney says Diddy is happy to be in this position because it's going to afford him the opportunity to, they say, to clear his name. He is sitting in a jail cell right now. He could be sitting in a jail cell for the foreseeable future. And like we just said, could be facing decades or more in prison if ultimately convicted. The attorney says that he's an imperfect person like we all are, but that he's not a criminal, that he's not a violent person, and that he will prove his innocence ultimately in this courtroom.
This is all over social media right now. I'm curious, have any of his alleged victims spoken out since his arrest or his day in court today?
Yeah, a lot of people have spoken out, and people who have, in Aubrey O'Day's case, Terrence, been somebody who has for years spoken out when it wasn't the thing to do, and when going against someone as powerful as Diddy, as a member of the music industry, was very detrimental to somebody's career. So Aubrey O'Day has came out and said, I feel validated today. I think you've got to look at Cassie, Diddy's ex-girlfriend, who we saw for as much as Diddy's attorney wants to say he's not a criminal, she was brutalized in that surveillance videotape from March 2016 at that LA hotel. For somebody like that, who had the courage to file this civil lawsuit against Diddy a couple months back, you've got to feel that there is an incredible sense of relief amongst those people today, as finally they feel like this guy who has run amok for more than a decade here now, violating people from coast to coast, has finally been held to account.
Well, let's talk about that, because the rumors have been going strong for some time now. And I know as you guys have looked into this story, you probably have heard things that, weren't reported necessarily recently or weren't being reported at the time that you learned about these things. So this doesn't necessarily come as a surprise to a lot of people, but what's been the general reaction, and what have you guys learned historically about what his reputation has been?
Yeah, I would say it's a surprise, and it's not at the same time. Look, the federal government put an immense amount of resources and time, effort into this investigation, raiding his house in Beverly Hills, raiding the house in Miami. You felt like they would not have gone through all that if they did not feel like there was a real case to be made here and they could ultimately get a conviction. So you felt like he was going to get arrested and face charges at some point. You just didn't know when. And when the feds then show up at his hotel room door yesterday and take him into custody, it's surprising. I mean, he is, and obviously, as we all know, he's been one of the most influential people in all of music and celebrities for decades, going back to the 90s. But you've got, at the end of the day here, somebody who is a multimillionaire, who runs a business empire, who the feds have said ran these crazy parties where he plied people with alcohol and hard drugs and had them do things on camera that he could then use to keep them in line, threaten them with physical violence, or either promise them, benefits to their career, all to keep people in line while he, again, essentially had these parties that just were a violation to the people who attended them. And it's almost incredible to think just that we have watched this person for so long be so successful and be just one of the most beloved celebrities out there. And the federal government says that for more than a decade now, he has been running a racket.
For the first time ever, Americans can now renew their passport online.
Now we're finally catching up with the times. The U.S. Department of State is reporting a record of more than 24 million passports issued last year, and 40% of those were renewals.
I had to do mine the old way. Kaylee Schuyler joins us now live from Boston's Logan International Airport. Kaylee, this is going to be a lot more convenient for people.
Good morning, Natalie and Brian. I'm happy that I'm able to bring you some good news this morning. This means no more paper applications or mailing checks. You can now do everything from the comfort of your own home. The State Department says around 5 million Americans are going to be able to use this service in the next year, but you do have to meet certain criteria to be eligible. You have to be at least 25 years old. You must be renewing a 10-year passport that has expired within the past 5 years or expires in the next year. And you need to make sure to give yourself plenty of time, because you will have to go in person if your international trip is less than 8 weeks away. The online renewal process was first introduced in 2021. President Joe Biden issued an executive order, but it was delayed because of the pandemic. During that time, the wait for passports was up to 18 weeks. But last year, the State Department reported that wait times had finally returned back to normal. So they started testing this service in pilot programs this summer. It's pretty easy to start the application process. You create an account on the State Department's website, enter your old passport information and upcoming travel plans, and you can even take your picture at home.
You can use a third-party app to take your passport photos, so you won't have to go to the pharmacy anymore. There's no chance that the State Department's going to reject the photo. You have to depend on the grumpy customer service worker at the pharmacy, and the lighting has to be good. You can't be smiling. No hats, no sunglasses. You have to make sure your head is cropped the right way.
The State Department says wait times are now at an historic low for in-person and online renewals. It's going to take about 6 to 8 weeks.
We still don't know what this means for clients who have upcoming events booked through the company. Think weddings, festivals, and corporate events. We also still have not heard back from the company after making multiple requests for comment. But an employee confirms to us that workers here at the Marquee Event Rentals McCook warehouse were notified late this afternoon that they are all without a job. While refreshing a Google search this afternoon, the company's hours changed to say permanently closed. Meanwhile, the company's Chicago tab was removed from its website and its warehouse was deleted from its location list. In addition to Chicago, Marquee Event Rentals has locations in Texas and Missouri. It's unclear if those locations will be impacted. The company's website boasts having the largest inventory in the industry, providing full-service rentals from bars and buffets to tables and tents for weddings, parties, festivals, and more. It's unclear how many employees this is impacting here in McCook. We did see some workers hugging in the garage earlier this afternoon. We will continue to bring you the latest on this developing situation as we learn it.
And the Emmy goes to Jeremy Allen White, The Bear.
Yes, Chef. The Chicago film series The Bear was a big winner at the Emmys last night. Jake has much more about last night's show.
Yeah, because something tells me that there was something else going on last night at 7 o'clock that people may have been watching other than the Emmys. Yes. Including myself. So Chicago had a lot to be proud of at last night's Primetime Emmy Awards. It was a big night for the Chicago-filmed culinary series The Bear. The show took home 11 Emmy Awards, including the one we just showed you, Jeremy Allen White, for Best Actor in a Comedy. But throughout the night, there was a lot of conversation about whether or not The Bear deserved to be in the comedy categories, and it was even brought up during the show itself.
I know some of you might be expecting us to make a joke about whether The Bear is really a comedy. But in the true spirit of The Bear, we will not be making any jokes.
But whether it's a comedy or not, it's still had a really great night at the Emmys last night. The show took home 11 Emmy Awards, including Best Supporting Actor for Ebon Moss-Bachrach. He won for his performance in the episode Forks, which was filmed at the restaurant Ever in the West Loop. Also, actress Liza Colon-Zayas took home Best Supporting Actress for The Bear, becoming the first Latina to ever win in that category. The Bear did miss 2 major awards, though. Ayo Adebere lost Best Actress in a Comedy to Jean Smart in Hacks, and the show itself lost Best Comedy Series to Hacks. And a big shout out to Chicago actor and a fan of Good Day Chicago, actor Lamorne Morris took home his first Emmy Award last night. He won Best Supporting Actor for a limited series for his role in Fargo, beating out some big names like Robert Downey Jr. and John Hamm. Lamorne grew up in Chicago. He worked at Second City. We also just got the in-person Chicago exclusive interview with him. He's going to join us on the show in a few days. He plays Garrett Morris in that Saturday Night Live movie I was telling you guys about. So we spoke with him just a few days ago, so it was really cool to see him. He said, you know, he was up against John Hamm and Robert Downey Jr., so he said he didn't even bother writing a speech. And then there you go. You never know.
Never know.
So tell us about that movie, because you were going to go see it.
Which one?
The SNL.
SNL.
Yes.
Yeah, it's called Saturday Night. It is truly fantastic. It takes place 90 minutes before Chevy Chase, who was the first person ever to say live from New York is Saturday night. And it was, we'll get into it more as we get a little closer, but it just shows you how close we were to that show not making it on the air.
Wow.
It's really, it is, and I mean this in a good way, an anxiety-inducing show. It is, in the best way possible.
And The Bear, comedy? No.
No, it is not.
Discover Chicago's hidden gems and untold tales.
If you look up, odds are you're seeing our work.
They have such an intense and fierce look when they swoop down and grab a fish.
3, 2, 1, go!
Fox 32's photographers share the stories they've captured with you.
Fountain jet shoots up about 150 feet. Our designers, the sky is their canvas.
See Chicago through their unique lens. Streaming now at Fox 32 on Fox Local. Download Fox Local on these streaming platforms and start watching.
We're losing several minutes of daylight a day. I don't know about you. My mind already jumps to winter like it's coming. Yes, it is. It's coming. So we talked to somebody today who has a little more insight on exactly when that first freeze could be. Let's take a look.
Fall begins this Sunday, but where is that refreshing, crisp air? And just how far off is that first fall freeze? I spoke to Illinois state climatologist Trent Ford on when we can expect a more fall-like weather pattern to emerge.
But when we look at outlooks for 2 weeks out and beyond, and the most recently released outlook from the Climate Prediction Center for October, all of those still show the best chance of above average temperatures. So while it won't be necessarily hot because we are, as you mentioned, getting into fall, real fall, it will likely be above average as far as temperatures are concerned for at least another 3 to 4 weeks before we start maybe seeing more hints at that real fall air.
And speaking of that real fall air, here's what Ford had to say about the first freeze of the season.
The average first freeze, so let's talk about a 32-degree freeze, is right around the third week of October. That's the long-term average for Chicago, and there's a lot of variability year to year. The earliest is the third week of September. That's the earliest we've seen it. So basically, like right now, it's the earliest we've seen it. The latest is the third week in November. So we have about a 2-month period in there where we can have a lot of variability of when we see that first freeze.
While the typical first frost or freeze could be just weeks away, Ford explains that we still have a while before we have to worry about any true tastes of winter.
So again, it doesn't mean that we can't get that shot of cold air or, God forbid, maybe a snow in fall. But as far as a prolonged, what we would really consider a real start to the winter season, it looks like we're going to have to wait until at least the latter half of fall, if not the start of meteorological winter in December, to really start to see that weather.
Yay.
I know. I didn't know how I was going to feel seeing all those videos of the snow. And
not good. I'm ready.
But Terrence and I, we were kind of liking it.
Winter coat shopping.
Yeah.
Get a new hat, some gloves with a touch screen fingertips.
We'll get you ready, Scott. Don't worry about it.
Thanks. I'll get you a pumpkin spice latte on Monday for the second full day of fall.
Thank you. The Timber Edge subdivision is located about 4.5 miles from an existing nuclear power plant. But residents say that in order for that plant to expand, they are being asked to sell back to their subdivision's original developer. The problem is that with the money some residents have been offered, they tell us they won't be able to afford an equivalent home. Headquartered in Baltimore, Maryland, Constellation Energy has proposed to build what they say would be the largest nuclear-powered clean hydrogen facility in the world. If it goes through, it would be located near their existing LaSalle Clean Energy Center, which houses 2 nuclear reactors. The company was awarded up to $1 billion from the government to make it happen. At the same time, the developer that built a nearby subdivision is looking to buy those homes back ahead of the proposed project. One homeowner says she found out through a letter she received about a month ago. It came from attorneys representing the subdivision's original developer, Timber Edge Associates, out of Joliet.
Everyone's anxious. Everyone's angry. We don't know what's going on. No one planned on moving. We were all getting ready to set up for the holidays, and as you can see, no one's put anything out. Now they're telling us they plan to pull all of the electrical and plumbing and level the subdivision by Thanksgiving.
When we called the subdivision's developer, they did not have an immediate comment to offer by phone, but we did get a statement from Constellation Energy. They said no decision has been made yet on the future of this property, and adds there are no plans right now to purchase additional property nearby.
Eerie new video from the U.S. Coast Guard. It gives us all an idea of what was left of the Titan submersible after it imploded last year, killing all 5 on board.
Investigators are in the middle of a public hearing in which they hope to uncover exactly what happened. Rebecca Castor has more from today's testimony.
This is the first footage of OceanGate's Titan submersible after its implosion. Remnants of a voyage to the wreck of the Titanic gone horribly wrong. The vessel's tail cone sits on the bottom of the North Atlantic, along with other debris. The Coast Guard released the video as part of its public investigation into the doomed mission.
What we have all gone through is still raw. Nothing is going to bring our friends back.
Thursday's testimony began with Renata Rojas, a mission specialist for OceanGate. She was one of the last people to see the 5 adventurers before they boarded the submersible, which imploded less than 2 hours later.
After I ate my lunch, went back to the bridge, and they had lost communications at that time.
So far, several former employees testified they had serious safety concerns about the Titan they claim went ignored. OceanGate's former operations director said Tuesday he had, quote, no confidence in the vessel's construction. And Thursday, the company's former scientific director revealed a dive was aborted after the Titan malfunctioned with passengers on board just days before the fatal mission.
The rest of the passengers tumbled about. I ended up standing on the rear bulkhead.
In addition to determining the cause of the implosion, the Coast Guard will also look into whether criminal charges are necessary. The National Transportation Safety Board is also conducting its own investigation.
Yes, indeed. They are in town through the month of October, and I am joined by the ringmaster of the Universal Circus, N.O. for New Orleans.
Yes, sir.
Hey, thank you so much for being on the program. N.O., what can folks expect if they head out to the Universal Circus?
Well, a lot of fun. A lot of fun. We are happy to celebrate our 30-year family reunion tour. So we have themed this year's show as to come out and meet your cousins from around the world. We feature acts from 5 different continents under one big top. Where else can you travel the world in 2 hours but the Universal Circus? That's why more than 25 million people have named us one of the top 10 attractions on Ticketmaster altogether.
This has been an unbelievable day on the plaza. We have seen, I mean, my mind has been blown at the talent and the fitness level of these performers. What does it take to put on a show like this?
Well, a lot of energy, a lot of training, but more importantly, a lot of fun. We are a bunch of big kids who love entertaining our audience. We love meeting our family and cousins from around the world. As we also, you're not just coming to the show to see us. You're coming to the show to be a part of the show because we are the most interactive circus in the world. We love getting our audience involved. So we encourage everybody to come to the show, prepared to be a part of the show. It's just such a unique experience.
Okay, so where's everything happening and how do folks get their hands on some tickets? Before we're about to see an unbelievable performance, by the way, but we got to get through some of these logistics.
Sure, we are at Washington Park, and we are, tickets are available at Ticketmaster.com, UniversalCircus.com. You can come right down to the box office at our brand new tent. Chicago, listen, we are celebrating our family reunion tour. You have to come to this family reunion and see our brand new tent, see the show for yourself, as well as the gentleman you're about to see right now perform right here for you on air. How about that?
How about that? Okay, go ahead and introduce these guys. We're going to let you take it away, Anna.
The place I'm so comfortable. Here we go. Now, family and friends, boys and girls, pay close attention as you witness from the Dominican Republic, Double Vision. Watch this.
From the Universal Circus, you are looking at Double Vision, everybody. An absolutely unbelievable performance. Universal Circus celebrating 30 years, and they will be here in Chicago through the month of October. That's absolutely unbelievable, and the fun is not over here on the Plaza.
Fox 32, home of the draft. I am so excited. Training camp. The Fans. The Fox 32 sports team. Fox 32, your home of the Bears.
New details from federal law enforcement officials reveal suspected gunman Ryan Routh spent hours near the Mar-a-Lago golf course before allegedly pointing an assault rifle in the direction of the former president.
Cellular data shows that the subject was in the vicinity of the golf course roughly 12 hours before the engagement with the United States Secret Service.
Acting Secret Service Director Ronald Rowe says an agent identified the suspect off the 6th green while Trump was on the 5th fairway and engaged.
The subject, who did not have line of sight to the former president, fled the scene. He did not fire or get off any shots at our agent.
Rowe says Secret Service has expanded its protection of the former president, already heightened after the July 13th assassination attempt, to its highest level yet. Former U.S. Secret Service agent and security expert G. Michael Verdon says he's protected presidents on golf courses and says those assignments are par for the course.
This should not be difficult. This should be standard operating procedures. You know, we have certain plans and methods when it comes to securing an outdoor venue.
Trump took to social media today to blame rhetoric from Vice President Kamala Harris and used the incident as an opportunity to demonize migrants. DePaul national security and terrorism expert Tom Makaitis says some rhetoric does cross the line, but questions about Trump's faithfulness to democracy does not.
Anybody who's saying Donald Trump is Hitler or Donald Trump is evil, that is over the top and inappropriate, because what that's doing is the exact same sort of thing which we're condemning here. That I would agree with. Saying this election, is very much about the future of democracy, I think is well within the bounds of respectable discourse.
And the investigation comes as some schools and public facilities in Springfield, Ohio, face bomb threats in the wake of Trump and running mate J.D. Vance amplifying debunked conspiracy theories that Haitian migrants there are eating pets.
President Biden has called on Congress to increase funding for the Secret Service, a call that Acting Director Ronald Rowe says he would welcome.
After his playing career ended in 1965, Hooks got a master's degree in thermodynamics from Northwestern University, where he later served as a professor and helped run some big companies. And he says for the White Sox this year, there's a lesson in all that.
Record, are you happy somebody is going to break it, or are you sad that it's going to be broken?
No, I've said this to many writers. I've said, I wouldn't wish that on anybody.
Jay Hook is now 87, pushing 88 years old, living with his wife on a small farm in northern Michigan. But in 1962, he was one of the so-called Amazing Mets, an expansion franchise that set the modern-day record with 120 losses.
Were you counting the losses in the clubhouse?
No, that wasn't a big deal at that point. I don't recall it really even many papers writing about it.
Hook grew up in northwest suburban Grays Lake, pitched for Northwestern University, then signed with the Reds in 1957. He was the third player chosen by the Mets in the 1962 expansion draft.
And I thought, well, this can't be so bad. I mean, it was Gil Hodges and Duke Snyder, and Casey Stengel was the manager, and it didn't turn out so well.
Hook won the Mets' very first game after 9 losses to start the season. His final record that year, 8-19. But as awful as the Mets were, the fans loved them.
The fans were absolutely terrific at that time, Dane. They just came out to the park, and it was a big deal to be on that team.
Which can't be said for the 2024 White Sox, now at 115 losses. The Sox have to go at least 7-4 in their last 11 games to avoid tying or breaking the Mets' record for futility. Hook says he's hoping the Sox fall short.
The thing you've got to realize in Chicago is every one of those players was a winner sometime in their life. because they wouldn't be there if they hadn't been a winner.
Despite his record on the field, Hook had a winning career off the field, getting a master's in thermodynamics from Northwestern, where he later served as a professor and helped run some big corporations. Another lesson for these White Sox.
It's not defining each individual guy. They've got a lot of lives. I mean, they've had a terrible year, just as we did in 62. But they can't let it get them down.
Hook says he recently got a call from one of his grandsons asking if he wanted to go to Detroit, where the White Sox end their season, to possibly see the record broken. He said he's taking a pass.
Natalie and Brian, you guys both know that I'm one of those guys that appreciates the finer things in life. And you sent me out to try that $187 hot dog. Today, I am at Adelina, the famed Gold Coast restaurant, with Colin Hofer, the GM here, to try a $13,000 martini. It's called the Maro Martini. We reported this yesterday, or this past week, and I am joined now by Colin, who's going to mix one up for me. Colin, first of all, how did this idea come to be?
Yes, so it was a collaborative idea from Jillian Sasson, the owner and creator of Maro Fine. She came into the restaurant and, liked what we do here and really wanted to make an impact with our guests. So what better way than throw a diamond necklace at them at the end of their meal, and along with a great cocktail.
A diamond necklace and a great cocktail. Okay, so tell me we'll start with the cocktail before we get to the necklace. What's going into this thing, Colin?
Yes, so a very rare gem, no pun intended, of San Luis Potosi Mezcal from Clase Azul. So it's not your average martini. Then we have a little bit of heirloom tomato water that we've clarified, some basil, lemon, olive oil, and then an infusion with some chili pepper, actually. Ooh. So I really wanted it to taste like a vegetable garden.
Before we let you mix this thing, has anyone actually ordered this product?
We have, yes. Yes, we've sold one so far, and we're looking forward to selling many more.
I know you have attorney-client privilege with your customers here, but what can you tell us about the person who actually paid $13,000 for the Maro Martini?
Yeah, it was a special evening, definitely, for them. And, they walked away with a beautiful experience, hopefully, and then a diamond necklace to memorialize it.
Okay, all right. You're being a little bit cryptic, but I like that. I respect that, the attorney-client privilege. Okay, now I got to bring in Mercedes Alonso. She's the GM with Maro Fine. You're actually wearing this piece that comes with the martini. Tell us about it.
So it's 9 carats, 14 karat yellow gold, and it's 150 diamonds.
It's 150 diamonds. And tell me about your side of this collaboration, kind of what inspired it from your point of view.
Yeah, it's really the uniqueness of the partnership. We're next door to Adelina. We're Southern California jewelry store, and we just came up with this idea, like, let's be neighbors, and how could we do something with this beautiful jewelry and collaborate with our community?
This was just announced this past week, and you've already had one sale. Okay, how did you react when you found out about that?
We're looking forward to many more, just in time for the holidays.
Just in time for the holidays. Look at him smoke that thing up. Do I get to try this thing?
Yeah,
okay.
It's early, but that's your decision.
You know what? One sip would be great. It's the moment of truth. Yeah. Look at this alchemist at work. Colin, you are a master, sir. So that's just giving it the smoky infusion. Oh my gosh.
For its smokiness, but this particular type of mezcal is called green agave, which is really a clean, more herbal agave.
Okay.
So I added a little smoke with artificial.
Ooh, that's tasty. That's tasty. And there goes about 60% of my salary for the next 6 months. Brian and Natalie, I'll enjoy the rest of this $13,000 martini. It's the Maro Martini, available now for all you high rollers at Adelina. All right, time to enjoy this cocktail, and I'm sending it back to you in studio. Cheers, everybody.
Thank you, Anthony. Do they have one where you can put a quarter in the machine and then turn the thing and the little candy necklace comes out? Because that's more my speed.
That's your speed. You know I appreciate the finer things, Nat, so this is kind of how I do it.
I've known you for too long, Anthony. That's not true.
Coach, some Friday Night Lights action for you guys, Illinois and Nebraska. This game unique for many different reasons. First conference game, you guys are both undefeated heading into this one, also ranked as well. What kind of test does Nebraska present to you guys, first off?
Well, it's their 400th straight game as a sellout, so we know we're going to be walking into a hostile environment, and they've been able to be successful in 3 straight games just like us, but a very accomplished quarterback, a good defense, a crowd, and a coaching staff that's second to none.
Speaking of their quarterback, you're set to face a true freshman QB in Dylan Raiola, the mini Mahomes. What do you guys need to do defensively to make this a true challenge for him?
I think 2 things. We got to play our game, right? It obviously depends a lot on what they do, but he's a very accomplished. I know he's a true freshman, but he's a guy that's very poised in the pocket. Has been pretty impressive, I think, through these first 3 games. You'll literally see him improve every game. So we got to do our things well, take advantage of the moments. They're a good football team, so we got to be able to understand when they have a good play, we got to sustain it, and then when we have ours, we got to ride it.
Coach, you have some playmakers on this defense. You guys have specialized in takeaways. How have you been able to instill that ball hawk mentality?
Well, I think it goes true credit to our D coordinator, Aaron Henry. He actually played safety for me back in the day, and I think he's passed along some of those skills. Miles Scott, Xavier Scott, even though there's no relation, we call them the Scott brothers. They really have done a really good job of high pointing the ball. We have a little saying in our program called CTOTTY, which is catch the ones they throw you, and they've been able to capitalize on those moments so far this year.
What makes this group so special to you?
I think they have an edge. A little bit of everything they do, whether it's the way they practice, the way they handle their business. Last week was a hot weather game. We had 0 issues with cramping. I think they took care of the pre-hydration and listened to what we were saying. So I think they buy into what we're selling on a wholesale value, and we'll see where we go on Friday.
I want to talk about your quarterback, second-year starter Luke Altmaier. I was looking at his stats last year compared to now.
Yeah.
Had a lot of interceptions the first 3 games, but now 0 interceptions. Where's the biggest leap you've seen him take in year 2?
I think the big thing we always say in our program, volume reflects confidence, and volume isn't always what's said. Sometimes it's what is done, right? And he has a really good way of just handling his business. I think our guys really respect A, his preparation, B, his performance on the field, and the way they communicate with each other and talk, especially in a hostile environment we're walking into on Friday. That's going to be at a premium.
Lastly, you guys are 3-0 for the first time since 2011. What do you need to see from this group for you guys to be 4-0?
Well, I think the approach was big. We talk every week. The outside world thinks we're 3-0, but we're trying to go 1-0 every week. And I think the daily diligence they made this week, especially with a short week, was really impressive. But bottom line, we got to pack our bags tonight, put ourselves in a position to be in the stadium on Friday and be successful. And that has a lot to do with how we handle the moment there.
Coach, thank you so much for the time. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Want to know Chicago politics? Listen to Paris.
Elections, conventions, corruption, there's a lot to get to.
Paris Shutz, the most trusted name in Chicago politics.
Making sense of the issues that impact all of our lives.
Is on Fox Chicago.
I'm Paris Shutz, and I get to cover politics in the world's most fascinating political city.
Find Paris on air on Fox32Chicago.com and streaming on Fox Local.
Let's get started.
Like you said, we weren't really represented, and even honestly, just now in the last 5 years, you're starting to see more black and brown breweries out there.
Very true. What better way to salute the start of Hispanic Heritage Month than with a cold, tasty beer?
And tonight, that beer is coming from Chicago's only Hispanic-owned brewery, which just opened its first permanent location in Forest Park.
Dane Placco has the story of 2 brothers from Hermosa following their beer-making dreams.
Craft beer was just fun in it, different flavors.
37-year-old Jose Lopez and his 40-year-old brother Javier caught the craft beer bug back in 2015.
I told Javier, I'm like, we can make beer at home. We can buy a kit, $600. You can have a very nice stovetop kit.
The brothers began brewing for friends and family in the home they grew up in Hermosa, a mostly Mexican-American neighborhood on Chicago's northwest side. But before long, they were buying bigger equipment to brew bigger batches with bigger dreams.
So we knew from the beginning we wanted to have a business.
Even 9 years ago, Chicago's craft beer scene was booming and competition was fierce. Brothers began brewing at District Brew Yards in Westtown, a small beer incubator of sorts, and their tasty beers began popping up on store shelves around the Chicago area. The name of their little company?
Casa Humilde Cervecería. and it translates into humble home. I call it humble because it's a good word that represents us and how we were raised by our parents, our grandma, our great-grandma, how to be humble, treat people, be kind.
But they also knew they had a special opportunity because there was a market that wasn't being served.
We went to a lot of breweries, but there was really no one that looked like us. There was a big market that nobody was catering to.
Our dad, our cousins, our uncles weren't going to craft breweries.
So after years of searching for the right fit, Lopez Brothers last month opened their brewery's first permanent location in Forest Park, taking over a building that housed a former brewery that went out of business.
Great reaction, a lot of great support from the community. We get people from all over. I mean, we're here in Forest Park, so we get a lot of people from Maywood, from Oak Park, from Berwyn, from Cicero, Riverside. We walk in sometimes and they're like, hey, we did it. Now, and it's just getting started.
They brew a variety of styles, everything from lagers to pale ales to porters and IPAs. But they try to infuse their beers with flavors reflecting their Latino roots, like prickly pear cactus, hibiscus, and orange peel.
Just going back into our childhood memories and using some ingredients that we typically use in our culture and our cooking.
Their most popular beer is Maizal, a Mexican-style lager brewed with corn, an ingredient often dismissed by craft brewers because it's used as a cheap grain substitute by the big breweries.
I use like high fructose corn syrup, and us, we're actually using the actual grain. So it's a little more different, a little more involved, a little more time consuming, but I think at the end of the day, it's worth it.
The brewery also features a big outdoor patio, a stage for music, and a full kitchen, which includes traditional Mexican foods as well as burgers and pub fare.
I feel it's important to have a little bit of something for everybody.
Along with the beer, you get a little taste of Mexico, from the art on the walls, the names of the brews, to the collaboration on a Frida Kahlo beer with the National Museum of Mexican Art. And Latino families from across the Chicago area are responding.
They asked me if I can speak to their parents, in Spanish and explain the beers and everything. It felt good because they're like, this is a place where we feel we can bring our parents, we can bring our uncles, we can come have a good time, and they're not intimidated.
In Forest Park, Dane Placco, Fox 32's Chicago.
We are celebrating World Rhino Day here at Brookfield Zoo Chicago. I'm with the president and CEO, Dr. Mike. Introduce us to Layla.
So this is Layla, our 13-year-old female eastern black rhino who is enjoying a tree branch here with us. So rhinos, like these black rhinos, are grazers, so she's using this prehensile lip that she's got to pull the leaves off of this branch. So they're more likely to eat kind of a tree or a bush than just graze grass off the ground.
The first rhino was born in captivity at Brookfield Zoo Chicago all the way back in 1941, and this is a species that's evolved over 17 million years.
Yeah, they're just spectacular animals. Such a unique animal, and we've got such a long history with the black rhinos here at the zoo, going all the way back to that first birth. But today, so much more focus around the conservation of these incredible animals because they're so critically endangered right now. Their numbers have been hunted, just absolutely decimated, all because of their horns. So that illegal poaching of the animals to cut off that horn.
Yep, she just ripped the branch. She's like,
take
I'm
the branch
hungry, Dr.
herself
Mike.
there.
So let's talk a little bit more about the horn. This is something that is often trafficked through the airports, and so you guys have been able to help out at the big airport here in Chicago by giving a little piece of Layla's horn.
That's right. So U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, when they're screening for illegal wildlife products coming into the country, they're dogs that sniff for those products. So by using a little bit of her horn, we can actually help train dogs to be able to detect that. So we were very excited to be able to partner with Fish and Wildlife on that one.
Tell me a little bit about, she's got an interesting medical situation here that people at home might notice.
Yeah, so we've shared Layla's story several times that she's had this obstruction in the back of her sinuses. In the wild, this would have been fatal. She was having a very, very difficult time breathing. And we actually found that was related to an unerupted tooth. So basically like an impacted wisdom tooth that we had to go in surgically to take the tooth out and then also open up her sinus. So she actually has a stoma, a small extra nostril on the top of her head there that helps her breathe comfortably. that we just keep a very close eye on, but she's done great. So many firsts. She was the first adult rhino to ever have a CT scan done of her sinuses. Her medical care has just been superb, and you can see she's thriving today.
What is she eating right now? I know we've got just a little bit of time left, so we're going to feed her
Yes,
this as
so
well.
these are some biscuits.
Biscuits!
We can use these to see if she'll take these. These are kind of a treat for her.
How about a little biscuit, Layla?
Well, maybe.
It is morning time. Everybody loves a morning biscuit, except for Layla, maybe.
Except for her. She's like, no, I'm good with my tree branch here. So.
Well, Dr. Mike, it has been such a pleasure to meet Layla with you here at Brookfield Zoo Chicago. Again, come out and visit her and celebrate World Rhino Day.
For thousands of years, we have been at war. But before, we were enemies. We were like brothers. You ready? Always ready. Let's punch in.
Well, if you were looking to take the entire family to the movies this weekend, Jake has a flick for you that's more than meets the eye.
You get it?
I do.
You get it? See, I knew it. You got a brother. You've watched these, right?
I think I watched him more than my brother
Really?
did. Yes, he was more Inspector Gadget.
Fair enough, I get it. All right, so here's the deal. The new Transformers movie, it's called Transformers 1. It's so great. It's perfect for the whole family, but it's not childish. I think the parents are going to be able to enjoy this one. It tells the origin story of mortal enemies Optimus Prime and Megatron before they hated each other, and those roles are voiced by the great Chris Hemsworth and Brian Tyree Henry. Now, when you interview actors for an animated movie, you kind of want them to do the voices, right? But you can't just ask them to do that. That can come across as forced or even a little awkward. So when I spoke with Chris and Brian, I wanted to know, what are the rules for getting actors to do their iconic animated voices?
When you become the voice of an iconic pop culture character, people are inevitably going to want to hear you do that voice. But I'm always curious as an actor what the rules are for asking you. Like, will you only do it for kids? Is there a time and place where it's really inappropriate? Like, what do fans need to know about trying to get you to do the Optimus Prime and Megatron voices?
I save it for bill collectors. You know what I'm saying? Like, I try to be as intimidating. I save it for drive-throughs, especially. It's really fun to do in drive-throughs.
Can I get a small little taste of that, of like what a drive-through Megatron?
Happen.
I have been saying no because it's quite a, I don't sound like Optimus Prime obviously when I speak, and it's quite I've got to really muscle it into place. And I am Optimus Prime.
We are actors. We have to
contort my sort of.
That counts. I got it. That still counts.
That's all you get.
There you go. There it is.
That was fair enough.
It was. I found it a lot more physically, like vocally, but the physicality of it was a lot more challenging than
And the safety of the booth, because like you're in there by yourself, like you can just you're allowed to play and do all the crazy things you want. Then when somebody comes up, it's like, do the voice. It's like, oh wait, hold on.
Roll out, roll out.
Transform and roll out.
Still counts. I got them to do the voice, whether they wanted to or not. We're going to have more from Chris Hemsworth and Brian Tyree Henry coming up in the next hour of Good Day Chicago. Transformers 1 opens in theaters tomorrow.
See, my line of questioning for Chris Hemsworth would be different, I think, than your approach.
Why do I feel like your line of questioning would end you up in HR?
Well, I don't know. All right, thanks so
Keep
much,
it professional,
Jake.
Bonky, for God's sake.
This is a great one for the moms this weekend. We're looking forward to it.
You know you can't see him in it, right?
I don't care.
Time Out Market is known for offering some of the most delicious cuisines from all over the world right into one place at Fulton Market.
And now the market is getting ready to celebrate Oktoberfest. Chef Jorge Kawam is the chef and owner of Gutenberg, and he's here to tell us all about it. I'm going to say Guten Morgen to you, which is a good morning in German, one of the 3 words that I know.
There you go.
So tell us what you've brought in first and how this is all going to play a part in the big festival.
Thank you for having me here. This Saturday, 21st, we are celebrating the beginning of Oktoberfest, and for that, at Time Out Market, we'll be operating at the patio, and I'll be grilling some bratwursts, some hot dogs, frankfurts. So we have a variety of hot dog trio and a footlong with our house-made signature sausage, and the German pretzel, which is pretty good. And it's going to be a super fun day for family, friends, and don't miss out.
We're really looking forward to it. I kind of helped myself to ahead here. How does what's in front of us compare to what's actually served overseas in Germany for Oktoberfest?
Well, this is a variation, but there are some very typical ingredients here. For example, the curry ketchup is something that in Germany it's
curry.
Yeah, curry ketchup is a traditional sauce that they dip the fries. So I mix and match with the hot dogs. We also have the frankfurters and the bratwursts. Also, this is a traditional German pretzel, a soft pretzel, and yeah, beer. Brats, pretzel.
Beer and brats.
It's one of those days where afterward you're like, I need to run 10 miles.
Oh, yeah.
But if you want to get a workout in while you're at the event, you've got a Stein hoisting competition.
Oh, yeah. To bring those Moscow back and.
So exactly how does that work?
Okay, they have to hold the Stein for longer they can. It's a a liter beer, sponsored by San Adams, and it's gonna be great.
So how are we supposed to hold these things?
Yep.
See, I could win this competition.
Well, hold on there, buddy. I asked about this, and apparently you're going to have to beef it up because this is half size, so it would be like two of these.
In one hand?
In one hand, Brian.
I don't want to spill.
Okay. if one of us was going to do it, it was going to be you and not me. So again, tell us when this is kicking off on Saturday, Jorge.
Saturday from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. Time Out Market open their doors at 11 a.m. So you can hang out there. We're going to have also live German music. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun.
It's going to be a good time.
Danke. It's the other German word I know.
This has been your Fox 32 Week in Review. See you around next week.